what we're trying to invite people into is an unforgetting. We are trying to help them unforget or unbecome
Hmm.
all of what this world of separation has firmly persuaded us is the truth of our
Hmm.
existence. We live separate lives. Your ego has to fight for its identity, the world of suffering that we live in. Well, how do you address that suffering if you're coming at it from a place of separation?
Hmm.
You can make temporary changes and offer band-aids, but the permanent ease to the suffering, most of which is generated in our minds, is to help people discover their origin, that they were
Hmm.
born in Christ.
Hello, hello. We're doing it.
Hello. Yep. Here
We've
we are
got
again.
Brooke Waters. Hey, Brooke.
Hi.
We've got Mo Thomas with us, and brother,
Hey,
we were
folks.
talking. Yeah, we were talking beforehand about the podcast, and I had you've been familiar to me, and we
Mm.
have a lot of mutual friends, but this is the
Yes,
first time we're meeting.
it
Uh,
is.
but we've been on calls together. We've been in Zoom calls and community connections.
We
I
have.
actually was on something a month ago or so, and I saw your face, and finally was able to put all the pieces together.
Yeah.
You've written a book that we're going to dive into the
Yes.
abyss. But I'm just thrilled to connect, man. As I was diving into this, getting to know you a little bit, I was like, man, there is so much of a similarity of journeys, and so much similarities around our conviction in the goodness of God, in union being the the discovery, the great awakening. But man, share a little bit about yourself, and let's get this thing going.
Yeah. Like many of us, um, first of all, great to be here. We have a lot of mutual friends. I know
Yes.
Dale, who does a lot of the cafes, speaks so highly
Mm.
of both of you. And he's become a friend and brother over the last several months, and uh, have learned a lot from him, hopefully from our exchanges. But a lot of those that I'm meeting in the tacos community, I recognize a similar upbringing in a very fundamentalist
Hmm.
setting. Me, it was Baptist. Mom made me, instead of the other kids going out and playing, I memorized Bible verses in the summertime. And at church, I got it at school, I got it at home, and so I pretty quickly learned what it took to be acceptable in that environment. Um, I turned to the performance route, so I
Yeah.
felt like the only way I could be acceptable to God was to do everything perfectly. That's what I thought expected. And so
Right.
I set
Hmm.
super high standards for myself, impossible to meet standards for myself. And I just doubled down high school, college, into my work life. I had to be valedictorian of class, MVP of the basketball team, tennis team, win the music competitions, all that. But underneath that, the whole time was this scared, insecure little kid,
Right.
just wanting to be accepted for who I was and never feeling like I was enough. And
Hmm.
so my story is that last weekend in January 2006, a lot of life circumstances were sort of coming together, perfect storm, and I abandoned ship. I did my little toddler tantrum, stormed away, said, God, I've had enough. I've done everything
Yeah.
that I thought you told me I needed to
Hmm.
do for the good
Hmm.
life. And my life was falling apart. It was a hot freaking mess.
Yeah.
And so I said, I don't need it. I will abandon ship on this version of Christianity that I grew up with. And that was a tough time. I've noticed a lot of people with similar stories about, how terrifying it is when your foundation gets pulled out from under you. And
Hmm.
for me, I was so locked into the church world and the Christian world, on staff with InterVarsity and other things. when that rug got pulled out, I really had no clue of how I was going to get back to survival mode.
Yeah.
And so on the outside, everything looked great. On the inside, I was falling apart. And the beauty of my journey from that point on was I abandoned ship and dove into the world that I knew and loved, which was science.
Mm.
Mainly astronomy, mainly black holes. I just loved,
Mm.
geeked out on that kind of stuff. But who knew that God was going to start sprinkling clues
I love it.
all through the cosmos, not just the
Mm-hmm.
expansive out there cosmos, but the minutia of these, the subatomic world, the inner
Mm-hmm.
universe, down to the quanta level.
Mm-hmm.
And I found him in both places. And so that set of breadcrumbs that I ended up following led me back to, I'll call it faith. It certainly didn't look like my childhood faith, but
Yeah.
love was at the center, community was the surrounding
Mm.
family dynamic that I was included into. And I think for me, the language of that, we can we can get that up here, but what does that look like in the lived experience of being a quaternity, Father,
Yeah.
Son, Spirit, and me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And many have used that, Carl Jung, and others have used that terminology. Father Rohr, Baxter hints at that. But I think the theology of it is one thing. What does it look like to show up in the world, living and experiencing that dance, not just out there, but in here? And that just has become my joy. I love talking about
Mm.
it in any setting that I can, and love joining with others and joining my voice to others who are thinking through and talking from that same place. So, in short version, that's how I got to where I am now.
And the thing I love about these conversations is the language continues to expand, the understanding continues to expand. But I want to before we go there, you wrote a book. You wrote Into the Abyss, which reminds me a little bit of the book Leaving and Finding Jesus. Especially, there's
Yep.
similar beats in it. In the first chapter, and you refer to the abyss. I'm assuming that's when you left everything. The abyss cracked open when the God I thought I knew stopped answering the phone.
Mm.
Uh,
It's
was something that you,
similar. I actually, this is a flashback to very early. I used to love a guy, a pastor from Chicago named A.W. Tozer.
yeah,
Do you remember him back in the day?
yeah, I grew up
He's
with it.
definitely
Yep.
on the fundamentalist side, but
Yeah,
he saw some things and he was trying best as he can
yeah,
with what he knew. And I read Pursuit of God 13 times or so. It was, it just something in that called to me. And
yeah.
his word for God was the abyss, the mystery
Mm.
of the unknown.
Come on,
When you
yeah,
stop trying to fit God in your box and you get comfortable with knowing that God is infinite and beyond your language, you can fall into that abyss. So my experience, not only with the black hole, but my experience of what God became, rather than this very, you know, easy to point to old white guy in the sky. Uh, God just expanded, became very large, and became very small. I
yeah.
found God in every subatomic particle throughout the universe. So my abyss was falling into the black hole and finding God at the center of it.
But
Mm.
this is the thing that I think echo or resonates with anyone who's been navigating this journey. And you write about this, and I think this applies to science and even what you could speak to in your research. But the first thing you have to remove is the certainties. And you actually, I think you just certainty is the currency of ego. Faith is
Yeah,
the language of the soul. I'm quoting you,
yeah.
but I think that speak to that because it's an unnerving journey, one that when you've taken it, it's terrifying. But on the other side, I have so much grace for those who are deconstructing, if you will, if you want to use that language, which you were doing before, we had a fancy word for it, right?
Yeah.
But talk about that journey of the mystery of God, of stepping away from certainty, because you do a really good job in the book of highlighting. And I really appreciate that certainty is the currency of ego. When I saw that quote, I thought, man, I want him to talk about that a little bit.
I would describe our human avatar, which includes our thoughts, experiences, emotions, beliefs, the things that we think about ourselves are the sum of our learned experiences as the
Yeah.
ego. Uh, unless we are able to become aware that that is our posture in the world, I don't think we'll ever discover our true self
Come
behind
on.
that ego self. And, you talk about a difficult time. I've been in the engineering field for 30 plus years. And if there's any discipline that requires certainty and accuracy and precision, that's the world I lived in. We did something
Mm-hmm.
called DFMEA, which is designed for failure mode effect analysis. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
we had to identify any possible way a system could go wrong, any possible way a customer might misuse the system and something bad could happen. So if you think about how important it was and precise we needed to be with not only language but with design, that's why it was so terrifying to get out from under this umbrella of certainty
Right.
and basically fall into, it was Wile E. Coyote stepping over the cliff, not having anything to stop the fall. And it was, for me, extra terrifying because I didn't have a community at all. I've faked it for probably 5, 6 years until I finally started meeting some folks in this space.
Right. Right.
Um, but certainty was the thing that made it so difficult to rethink because the danger of not being certain was horrific beyond description,
Sure.
23 minutes in hell kind of stuff. You remember that book?
uh,
Yeah, I handed
yeah.
it out like candy at one point, thinking I was doing people a favor. And I just, in shame now, I know God has forgiven me. I've forgiven myself. But we have
Mm-hmm.
such toxic implications of our certainty.
Yeah.
And as you've said, Jason, I've heard you say similar things. The opposite of faith isn't certainty. The opposite of faith is doubt, right? If you are certain, there is no need to trust God
Right.
with our lives and with our
Right.
futures and with this present moment.
Yeah.
So I think doubt and questions in my world are the absolute joy of God's heart. When he sees childlike questions and
Come on.
audacious doubts, people
Come on.
spewing that stuff and thinking, God's going to strike me dead. No, I think God has just overflowing
Mm-hmm.
delight when he sees us asking those kind of questions because he knows that's the path toward beauty and
Mm-hmm.
mystery and joy.
I want to ask. I know Brooke's got stuff, but the journey, bro. Mine was one, and I would be curious how you would answer this. What was the thing that was sustaining you? I don't know if you heard our conversation. I had Jeff Turner on maybe a year and a half ago. If
That's
you
a
know
good brother.
Jeff.
He lives here in Michigan.
Okay. And so I imagine you guys have some conversations.
Yeah, yeah,
Jeff became an atheist
yeah, he
as
did.
he stepped away at one point. Like he said, let's give it. I was like, my gosh, man, he went full in. Let's do this thing. But there was a shifting, there was a sustaining reality, and it was the love of God that he ultimately couldn't ignore. And I'm curious when folks are in the process of The story I tell in the book, Leaving and Finding Jesus, is a woman calls me up and she's leaving Jesus, and she's in the middle of an existential crisis. And I'm aware at this point she's in the middle of this crisis. And I also know when someone's drowning, give them a little bit of space so you don't
Yeah.
get, it's a little bit easier on you. But then I also know Jesus is with them. We're going to be all right. He doesn't leave or forsake. And that the ultimate wrestling match, the reason that they're terrified is because they have encountered the reality of the gospel, which is Jesus. They have touched his love and his affection and his kindness. It is the reason they're still trying so hard. And as they deconstruct or whatever you want to, as they rip the things away, that thing sustains them through. And I'd be curious what was sustaining you as you said, you basically went into the abyss. Like what was the sustaining thing that continued to pull you back, to continue to reveal what we ultimately discover? There is no shadow of turning. This revelation of union. Speak to that a little bit.
I think the path towards discovering that love was slow because I was so upended with leaving the certainty of my foundational faith. And so from 2006 to 2012, that period was painful. I would say that I went into a very deep depression at certain stages during that time. I didn't know God was there and present. I didn't discover that love. And so I just did the things that I knew would get me through the day. It was survival mode,
Right.
absolutely survival mode.
Wow.
And I look back with a little bit of shock that I was able to make it through. There were times where I felt like I was going to implode. And so, looking back, yes, it was God's love that was sustaining during that time, walking in solidarity. I love Walt Brueggemann's quote. His term for steadfast love is tenacious solidarity.
Come on.
And looking back, I felt that afterwards. I knew that was what got me through, that little nudge that I needed at the right time. And there were some very tender Abba moments where in the middle of that mess, I talk in the book about a speck of gold dust, and the story is beautiful, but something as simple as a little speck of gold dust on my cheek, random thing, but within a millimeter, I discovered that same spot on my cheek over the course of like a week, 3 times in that same spot, and it felt like I heard God say, "You've always wanted the approval of your earthly dad. I'm going to step in and show you what it looks like for me to be your Abba."
Come on.
And what do you say to that?
Yeah.
That's kind of an offer you can't refuse. And then I started to know the intimate place at the table, what it looked like to be included. Can I read a quote for you?
Yeah, please.
So I cannot overstate how joyful it was to discover God had set clues out throughout the universe, those breadcrumbs that led me back. And this quote has always stayed with me. It's what modern science is reluctantly stumbling toward. The first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will turn you into an atheist. But at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. Oh my Lord, I love that so much. That's Werner Heisenberg. He's the 1932 Nobel Prize winner for the creation of quantum physics. And a lot of work has happened since then, almost 100 years. But, in my book, I sprinkle it with quotes from folks who set out to sort of disprove, or here's science and here's religion and spirituality. And I kind of did the same. I was thinking, I was going to launch out into a place where I didn't need that grounding. And instead,
Wow.
I smacked right into the center of Trinitarian dance. Perichoresis. That's where I found myself. Good
Come
Lord.
on. Come on. It's the ultimate destination or revelation of where we're awakening to the reality
Yeah.
of that that we've already arrived, it's powerful, man.
Hmm. I talk a lot about curiosity versus contempt. And another way, because you can't operate from curiosity and contempt at the same time.
Right.
It's either one or the other. The way that our brain is, it's just either one or the other. But another way that I talk about it is a scientist versus a judge.
Mm,
And I love that you had been judging yourself about your standards, all these different things, and you chose to become the scientist again and start asking questions and want to dig deeper, even though like you may not have like cognizantly been aware, like I'm gonna find myself through this process. But I could see it all over you, like walking in your identity. And I love that. And the whole idea of the quantum nature of things and union is something that I've been really enjoying seeing the, I don't know what word to use, like the awareness surrounding all of that, or how it's become more prevalent. I don't even know like the right word to use, but I keep seeing science over and over again just becoming very just proving union on a quantum level, to the point where I've even like rethought about like we'll just think about like getting a prophetic word or a word of
yeah.
knowledge
Yeah.
in a room. And because of union and because of these things, it's like it's not that I'm sitting there and have this special power that God is talking to only me about this situation for somebody or in this room. It's because we're literally all connected, and if we're paying attention, we can all become aware of that. And we can all become aware of this need that's happening in the room that's being highlighted or anything, and it's the same. It's just, it's quantum also. I don't know. Like, I don't always have words for it,
Yeah.
but I feel it and I sense it and I'm really excited about it.
Well, I would love to frame that with you, Brooke, because I found the same. And I also will fully acknowledge that my deep dive into quantum physics very quickly showed me how little I actually know about anything. It is mystery,
Mm-hmm.
and the brilliant minds of the world's leading physicists and astronomers are coming to the same conclusion. It's throwing on its head conclusions that we've had for hundreds, even thousands of years in certain cases. Um, you're describing the divine mind. When we hear these phrases, they're very inspirational. When Paul says we have the mind of Christ, and that we're seated with Christ in heavenly places. Man, that sounds
Mm-hmm.
so wonderful, and we're united. Well, what the heck does that actually mean? And how do we share that in a way
Mm-hmm.
that invites people into? It's almost like inviting people into a room that they're already in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so another founder, this guy's considered the father of quantum physics, came to the same conclusion. He says, there is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom to vibration and holds this minute solar system of the atom together. So not the universe out there, but the universe in an atom is held together by this force. We must assume that behind this force is the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter, and he would call it divine consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So when you said awareness, I would gently suggest, and this is confusing, so stick with me, the awareness of that awareness,
Mm-hmm.
the behind the scenes, the fundamental, irreducible awareness, consciousness is God. It's the mind of Christ that we emerge from. It's not just that we've been joined, it's that we've never not been.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
We've never not been in this union with the
Mm-hmm.
divine from before the creation. This is just mind jaw-dropping, mind-blowing
Mm-hmm.
reality that we've been invited to become aware of in that
Mm-hmm.
sense. It's almost like it's not I'm at point A and I've got to help people get to point B. It's not that. There is no path. Point A already has this reality built in, and it's
Mm-hmm.
I think, Jason, you said it, it's the stripping away of all of the stuff, barriers, distortions, and lies that keep us from immersing in what's already true
Yeah.
at the
Mm-hmm.
deepest part of our being.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, holy shamoly.
But this is the stuff that gets, this is where Jesus' prayer, I pray that you would be one as I am one, as I'm in the Father and the Father's in me. And he's talking to this, saying this to the disciples. And this is where if I start to spend time here, I get emotional. I get, because my heart begins to burn with the confidence that God is love, that when it all
Mm-hmm.
comes down to it, that love is the answer to every question that aches in the heart of humanity, that we are awakening to union.
Amen.
It's
That's
it's
awesome.
the
Yeah.
it's the it's and you see it in the life of Jesus. I grew up chasing, having had encounters, experienced his kindness and his affection, knowing that God is love in my innermost knower, as you know, as Baxter, your knower. You know,
Yeah.
I was, and yet wrestling with the reality of the moment I'm in, you know, and all of the separation that was coming through the pulpit,
Mm-hmm.
and in every other aspect of life that you're experiencing. But knowing every once in a while, brushing across the reality of something profoundly deeper, that inner burning, that burning heart that those Emmaus Road guys
Yeah.
were awakening to, and this love that transcends time and space. And so when the shift happened for me, and it also happened in a similar way, it was you know, a 2 year silent period. You know, you can talk about a period of silence. Mine was one in which the Father told me he was going into hiding, but it was to bring me into a place where I would ultimately be able to leave my certainties, the things that I had shackled my faith, had limited my ability to trust, so that I could discover that there is no shadow of turning. And that was the revelation, that the day that I was mowing my yard and I heard him say, Jesus didn't live for the above and beyond all you can ask or imagine, he lived from it. And when that went off in my heart, I began to see everything different. And I had been raised to do signs and wonders. I've been raised to have these miracles follow me. And they
Mm-hmm.
weren't. In fact, it was one of the areas that I most was frustrated with God. You know, you drop me in this charismatic movement. We
Mm.
make the kingdom on earth the reality. It's all
Yeah.
biblical. I'm seeing miracles. I'm not experiencing miracles. And that huge disconnect. And then this union revelation happens, and you see Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration, and he walks down the mountain to disciples who haven't been able to pull off the miracle. And I know that's me. I've been at the base of the mountain,
Yeah.
being told that I have the authority, and I can't even cast out a little demon. And Jesus comes down, deals with it, and then they ask him what I've been asking my whole life: why couldn't we do this? Why? And then he says, you don't have enough faith. And my separation mindset up till 35 years of age would have been, okay, he's setting up the question. He's asking about a measurement. How much faith do I need? Which, of course, I imagine there was a pause there. But then he
Yeah.
answers, and he says he answers with the mustard seed, which really what
Yeah.
he's saying is, it ain't about the size. It's about the nature of my intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the fact that I just was with my Father, and I am still with my Father. I'm living from him. And it's not, you don't need the faith of a mustard seed. It's not about the size. It's of your faith. It's about the size of your revelation of union, about and if you are walking in that place, then you can say to the mountain, move here to there. Nothing is impossible for you. And I want you to speak to this, because the piece that would always get me is Jesus says to them when they can't, after he's healed this boy who was being thrown into the fire, he says, "Oh, how perverse!" I forget. I don't want to misquote it, but he basically says, "How long must I be with you?" And
Yeah.
back in the day, I would read that and be like, "Oh, that's harsh." But
Mhm.
these days, when I read it, I realize he's going, "How long? How long do you have to live in the lie of separation? How much longer do you have to live in the limitations of trying to get to me, of trying to perform for me, of trying to do something when everything I have is yours? And if you
Mhm.
would just know intimacy and union and love as I know it, you could live in such a
Yeah.
way where there's no impossibilities." This is the thing I feel like you're inviting us into, and you're putting new language around it. This is the thing I think
Mhm.
we're all awakening to. I'd love for you to speak to it. There's no question there, other than I want to get your perspective on,
Yeah.
when I start talking quantum, I start thinking the miraculous is not just within reach. It is just a shift of understanding of it's
Let
an
me let me
awakening.
take let me take you to the origin point, what I call the origin point of the creation, by way of talking about body, soul, and spirit. So
Yeah.
we that's the model that we use. Some of these realities go beyond our ability to put them into words. So just we can use what we
Yes.
have to
Yes.
paint some pictures. So if we think of our existence as the integration of body, soul, and spirit, we'll call the body our world consciousness. It's the world that our senses take in and that our brains interpret for us. So it's the worlds of sights and sounds and feelings and beliefs and experiences, all that. Then there's the world of the soul, which is our self consciousness. It is our sense of self. This is where the ego is birthed. Genesis 3 language, where what they had before, they all of a sudden rethought and said, "What I need is out there, and I'm going to grab it, the pomegranate on the tree, or whatever the fruit was." And the ego was born. The sense of self all of a sudden was influenced outward rather than influenced inward.
Mm.
So world consciousness, self consciousness, and then you have the spirit, which is God consciousness.
Mm.
That's, Brooke, what I said before. It's the consciousness of God's consciousness. It's the our awareness of the awareness behind everything that
Mhm.
exists. And
Mhm.
so if I take
Okay.
us back before Genesis 1:1, let's just pause for a second and think about the moment. Now, time didn't exist, so you know what I mean by moment before Genesis 1:1, the moment before creation, when all that existed was a singularity.
Mhm.
The singularity is simply a supermassive star that implodes at the end of its life cycle. Instead of going supernova, it implodes into a dot, an infinitesimally small dot. And that's what science is calling the first cause, the origin, Big Bang, whatever science wants to call it.
Okay.
Paul in Colossians 1 calls that Christ. In Christ,
Mhm.
all was created, held together, and sustained. All right, I'm going to
Mhm.
call that the singularity. So a black hole is the previous existence prior to that singularity. All that existed was contained within it. A white hole is the reversal, where everything that's in this singularity is now expanding outward at unbelievable speeds. And now we have the universe that we know it today.
Mhm.
Let's just think
Mhm.
about this for a second. The universe, the imagery is imploded into the point of a singularity, which is Christ.
Mhm.
That singularity has no time, no
Mm.
space, no separation, no need to communicate because there's intimate union and
Mhm.
communion with everything and everyone in that space. Us and God, us and each other, all of humanity is in that dot. Pre-existence. That's just so hard to get our heads around.
Yeah.
Baxter attempts that with the pre-creation dance. Um, but if we think of that singularity as the equilibrium between the past and this present moment, it's the point in time where union, sort of our baseline for union, was established. Our
Okay.
consciousness in that point, that infinitesimally small point contained in Christ, changed in form, but not in essence. Our spirit remained in the same state of union and communion that we experienced prior to this world of form, the world of time, the world of space. So you being able to offer a prophetic word or a word of knowledge or just intuition of things that
Hmm.
seem just so synchronous that it can't be random, why would we be surprised when the
Hmm.
world of essence that we have experienced in and with God before the beginning has changed into a world of forms where it just seems so obvious that we're all separate. It's so obvious. But then Jesus just starts saying crazy stuff, right? Crazy talk, down 14 to 17. He starts talking about vines and branches. You're all branches on the vine. That's me.
Right.
Scientists will say waves on the ocean. Same reality that they're describing. We emerge from and within this divinity that we call God, this dance. Um, and so when I think about our path forward from that place of having experienced that, my take is that in our subconscious memory, we have actually experienced that intimate union, immersed
Hmm.
in love as the essence of all things that started it all
Hmm.
off in that singularity has only changed in form, but not in essence. All that is contained now in the world that we know existed in seed form in that singularity. We'll call it Christ.
Hmm.
So that's just an amazing thing that more of our what we're trying to invite people into is an unforgetting. We are trying to help them unforget or unbecome
Hmm.
all of what this world of separation has firmly persuaded us is the truth of our
Hmm.
existence. We live separate lives. Your ego has to fight for its identity, the world of suffering that we live in. Well, how do you address that suffering if you're coming at it from a place of separation?
Hmm.
You can make temporary changes and offer band-aids, but the permanent ease to the suffering, most of which is generated in our minds, is to help people discover their origin, that they were
Hmm.
born in Christ. They existed and do exist and are sustained in Christ. And that dance is not some abstract thing, entity out there. It's Colossians 2. That dance is taking place in us with us. It is our spirit. That is our spirit being joined with God's spirit. Um, Impossible
Yeah.
to separate. Impossible.
Hey guys, so we have a conference coming up. It's our second annual family reunion in Charlotte, North Carolina, my backyard. And last year was so sweet. I'm really looking forward to this year, September 25 through 27. Baxter Kruger is going to be with us. So thankful for him. Damon Thompson is going to be with us. That's been a new friendship, and I'm incredibly grateful for him. It's going to be a time, guys. Dub Alexander will be with us again. Love Dub and all that he brings. Brooke Waters, whom you guys know and who helps put this conference on, she'll be with us. And Mark and Julie Appleyard, good friends of mine, dear friends of mine. They've been on the podcast. They're going to be with us, along with Michael and Bethany Wallace, who led worship last year. It was unbelievable, and it's going to be good this year. I'm really looking forward to this. September 25 through 27. You can learn more about it at afamilystory.org, afamilystory.org. We have the early bird tickets right now, so if you sign up now, it'd be the most cost effective. It also lets us know how to prepare for you. Guys, there will be fellowship, there will be worship, there will be deep end conversations and teaching around this Trinitarian faith, this beautiful gospel, this good news that only gets better, and the opportunity to connect again as a community. I'm so grateful for you all, so grateful for the ways in which we get to continue to discover and explore the goodness of God together. And I'm excited about the opportunity to do it face to face, September 25th through 27th, afamilystory.org. Come hang out with us. Oh, by the way, I'll be there too.
No, that's good. When I'm working with someone, I actually call it returning to your anchor point. Is really because it's like just the thing. And I feel like when Jason's talking about the burning in him, it's the same thing. It's like people have different language for it,
Yeah.
but it's all the same thing, and it's union and the essence of union. That's really good. I really appreciated all you just said.
Let me
I'm loving
let
it.
me let me ask this
Yeah.
as a relational guy, trying to grasp what you're speaking about, at which my heart is burning while you're talking.
Mhm.
If there's a singularity,
Yeah.
you're still talking about what I love, what Baxter's helps us with the Trinity is this perichoretic, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, face to face to face, union with distinction. Rob will speak to this, that love is the beginning and the end of all things. If God is love, then love has to work in the context of relationship, or it isn't love, which is, of course, the picture that we're getting in this, this Father, Son, Holy Spirit relationship in which we have been included. Speak to that a little bit, because
Yeah.
that's the that burns in me. That's the part that goes, look at, I mean, I want to geek out over my favorite movie of all time, Interstellar, which,
Oh, I
Yeah,
love Interstellar. Yeah, that's on my
love
top 10 for
Interstellar.
sure.
it's a legit, there's
Yeah.
a moment in that movie, and I write about it in my book,
Yeah.
where they have to make a decision between two planets that are going to sustain
Yeah.
life,
Yes.
or the world ends forever, right?
Yes.
And they're scientists, so they're systematic theologians, is how I
Yes.
joke about it in the book.
Yeah.
They gotta work the science. They gotta work their certainties. And
Hmm.
the one character by Anne Hathaway,
Yeah.
we find out that one of the planets, one of the two viable planets, the man she loves is on that planet.
Yes, it
And
is.
so suddenly she's held suspect because couldn't be the motivating factor in science. And McConaughey's character actually comes after her and suggests that she's maybe compromised by love. And then she says this, but what if love is the one thing that transcends dimensions of time and space? And what if we can't understand it yet, but it's still true? And what if we could
Hmm.
trust that?
Hmm.
I'm almost getting that quote, but I love that picture because it's a marriage of what you're talking about
Hmm.
in entertainment form, but
Why is it,
ultimately,
Jason? Why is it that movies get theology better than we do in most pulpits? I don't,
I don't
they,
know, because
yeah,
they
you're
understand that
absolutely right.
story. Because here's the thing, here's the reason: a good story requires reconciliation and restoration.
Hmm.
It requires overcoming and coming together at the end. If you're really
Yes.
telling a good story, we've right now got a movie there's a line in the movie that we're working on that says, "If it isn't happily ever after, it isn't the end of the story yet." And so
You're
It's
not
I
there
good.
think
yet.
that's why. Help me understand, because the
Yeah.
relational dynamic that takes place in that, by the way, she was right. Should have gone to
Yeah,
that
she was
planet
right.
and picked that one. But the point is that love is the one thing that transcends time and space. It is a relational face to face to face Speak to that in that singularity,
Yeah.
in that context. Put language around it for me.
Yeah. So the very nature of the perichoresis that was present in that singularity is and will always be love. And the
Yeah.
essence of love is what defines the character traits of that singularity. So it is sustained and held together by love.
Yeah.
All of the relational intimacy within that shared space is the fullness, the
Mm-hmm.
end of the spectrum of what is possible, all of the imagery that we think of when it comes to human love, multiplied by 2.5 trillion, let's just throw a number out, is
Times
just a
two.
taste, times two,
Yeah.
is what we have experienced within that singularity, that relational intimacy that we've had with God and with each other is what we begin forgetting when we enter the world of form, when we enter the world of time and space that's driven by separation. And so to your
Mm.
to your Interstellar, I'll raise you the Matrix, which is my favorite movie.
Yes.
When
Those are
Neo
my favorite movies.
escapes the Matrix and his partners in the real world rescue him, what it does is I'm gonna call the Nebuchadnezzar uh, an aspect of the singularity. What he is doing is he's being sucked out of the simulation, the world of form that we live in,
Hmm.
into the real world where his consciousness now melts together with, we'll call it the divine consciousness, so that when he enters back into the world of form, he's no longer limited by the natural
Right.
laws that determine the simulation. He is now operating from a different consciousness that
Right.
he has received within the singularity, that now he comes back and shows up in the matrix
The
as the
nothing
one.
will the nothing will be impossible for you reality.
There's not,
Hmm.
but he doesn't have to work that up,
Yeah.
and obviously through the movie things are being burned off of him, mostly his limiting beliefs. But at the end, he gets it. And what is it that drives him over that point, that activation point? It's the love of Trinity,
Hmm.
Yes.
right? So obviously, no pun intended there. But see, movies
Hmm.
get it in ways that we just struggle with in churches, to know that it's love that pushes you to do things that take you over the edge, and that pushing over the edge I call an event horizon. It's that
Mm.
space around a black hole that's sort of the point of no return. Well, what happens when you cross that point of return? You go through a process called spaghettification.
Yeah.
This,
Okay. I saw that.
you remember that? It's the stripping away of all of your false identities, all of the distorted narratives that this world
Come
of
on.
separation
Hmm.
has given you, that you've ingested, you've internalized. It's become your default. You don't know anything else until until you get touched by love.
Come
Hmm.
on.
And when that thing resonates, something in here says, it just is drawn to it in a
Hmm.
supernatural way. Why? Because I think we have immersed in that. There is a subconscious hidden remembrance that we
Yes.
have
Hmm.
of being in that shared union at the far end of the spectrum of love. We're trying to get
Yes.
back to the garden,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Pre Genesis 3 garden experience, and the world of forms and separation make it very difficult. But there is one voice and one reality in the middle of all that subconscious noise that whispers to us about who we are.
Hmm.
You and I, God says, are one. That's the space from which I want you to live in this world
That's it.
of separation and of
Yeah.
Hmm.
conflict. bring the relationship that you've experienced, bring that relational intimacy in your life into
Mm-hmm.
those spaces. So for me, that is no abstract, gobbledygook that's metaphysics that people sometimes make fun of. That's
Mm-hmm.
sort of the core essence of all reality. At the center of it is this dance. And somehow, in God's infinite wisdom, God has made this dance to reside within Jason and Brooke and Mo and everyone that we interact with.
Mm-hmm.
Not only are participants in the dance, but that participation is also taking place deep within us. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I get a little bit excited about geeking out with this singularity because so much happened there that the reality of that infinitesimally small place has never changed in essence, only
Come
in
on.
appearance, only in form, only in perception, which is always flawed. I
Yeah.
hope that answered the
No,
question
no.
about love and intimacy because that's sort of the heart, essence, center of it all.
Well, and I would say this, and sorry, Brooke, you got something?
No, go for it. I'm just
Well,
uploading.
the to note that why Hollywood gets it or a good storyteller gets it. I'm convinced that a good story is a good story because ultimately we're all convinced in the restoration of all things. We're all
Mm-hmm.
convinced at the end that love actually wins, even if the
Mm-hmm.
story seems like in the moment it doesn't work out. You've got some of those stories that end and there's only sadness or sorrow. But I'm like, yeah, but the only reason that works is because we're watching it knowing that's not the end of the story. It can't be that
Right.
we're still watching it convinced that at the end of the day, there is a love that is holding all things together, which is, by the way, in the book that you wrote, Into the Abyss, the conclusion that you
Yeah.
share, and the one that I would share is that if love wins, then it must win over everyone, or it isn't
Mm-hmm.
love
Yeah.
at all. Which is,
Right.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
quoting you, but maybe speak to that because that's the place that ultimately takes this, like what you're talking about is fascinating, and the language is profoundly expansive to be able to find it in this, in quantum physics. And you mentioned you had Tara Boothby, you guys geeked out over, you know, probably attachment theories
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and all the ways in which we're discovering that love has the final say and God is in the
Mm-hmm.
restoration business. And the thing that sustained me even through those years of silence, I would imagine in hindsight you could look back to those tough years and go, the restoration, the fact that love wins is the thing that was sustaining you. It's the thing that ultimately pulled you through. It's the discovery
Yeah.
that you and I come alive. We all come alive to this. Oh my God, it's times two. It's times 2 trillion. It's
Yes. Two and a
speak to
half.
that. Yeah.
So, the Greeks had a fancy word for it, apokatastasis. That's Acts 3:20, the ultimate reconciliation of all things. And many scholars love David Bentley Hart's work on this.
Yeah.
You need a dictionary to read his books, but
Hmm.
it's awfully good. Many have come to that conclusion and use that word, but I think uh, the simple phrase that you just said sums it up. Love wins.
Yeah.
And if love doesn't win, it's not the love that was shared
Come on.
by God in quaternitarian relationship prior to the creation with us
Yeah.
when we become full, aware, conscious participants into that love, not just with God, but with each other and
Yeah.
with the creation, we will know that love has won. And I long for that not to be
Yeah.
at some future time,
Come
because
on.
in the
Mm-hmm.
world of quantum physics, things can happen. The world of possibilities can turn into a world of reality like that. It
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
doesn't
Yeah.
require the process that we sometimes require to get from point A to point B. And I'm not ditching process. I know, folks, we need to meet folks where they are. I needed to be met where I was and
Hmm.
led gently to this understanding and to this higher consciousness that
Yeah.
what does it look like to be seated with Christ in heavenly places? What's God's perspective of what's taking place now?
Yeah.
It's not just hope for a future glorious celebration, but there's almost an incredible gratitude when we meet people to know that they've had this experience and they've just simply
Hmm.
forgotten.
Yes.
And their lives are the unfolding of the natural effects of believing that their egos have to fight for survival and fight for identity. We are living
Hmm.
in a world where people are so desperately trying to prove that with 1,000 things,
Yeah.
probably 8 billion different things, one for every person on the planet.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Hmm.
but there is a reality that overlooks our distortions and lies and misgivings and
Come on.
even behaviors, because behaviors are just pointing to those distortions.
Yes.
Hmm.
God looks underneath that, just like Jesus always looked underneath and
Yeah.
called out the true, the goodness, the beauty within. I love the woman at the well, Fatina, right? The
Hmm.
Eastern Orthodox Church celebrates the day of Fatina. Why? Because she saw differently, because she was seen in that relational context that I believe represented Jesus coming as the bearer of the Trinitarian dance. You know,
Right.
didn't use any of that language. Just he
Yeah.
just saw her for who she was, underneath all the labels and all this the
Hmm.
shame and the scorn. And what did she do? She went and told 10 cities, the Decapolis, and they thronged together to meet him the next time he came through. That's
Right.
one person just shouting the good news. There is someone who saw me and did not judge me and made me
Hmm.
feel affirmed and safe. And I want the world to know. Well, that's the invitation. I believe that
Jeez.
it has been what I've felt, that invitation. And, I long for our lives to be organic invitations of that same sort, for people to cross the event horizons in their lives and
Hmm.
find themselves spaghettifying all of those false identities so that they can arrive at this wonderful conscious awareness that they've been a participant in the eternal divine dance.
It's so good. It's like the idea that our innate our innate goodness in us. There's such a narrative that wants to say that we're broken, that we're lacking things, all
Yeah.
this, that we're not made whole, that we're not we're not whole, and we have to fix ourselves and all these things. And so I just really appreciate, because like in the way that you're speaking to that, I just love the language, because my language for it is just different. But it is, and part of your journey is really what it sounds like to me is speaking to that inherent goodness that we all, I don't know, I'm processing at the same time, but it's just we have forgotten that we are good, and Jesus in the Bible even says, right, if we want to use the Bible as reference on things, and it's just like
Yeah.
he said, you were made very good. He didn't change his mind, but somewhere along the line we started telling others and ourselves that we're the problem, we need to be fixed, we're broken, even using scripture about above. I don't know the right, I do a horrible job script, like quoting
No, you're
scripture,
doing
but
you're doing
about
great.
your
I'm
about
tracking you.
your heart being deceitful above all
Hmm.
things,
Yeah.
literally speaking to the heart about people. But really, it's like, even as you were talking, I got emotional. And Jason, when you guys are talking, it's just I get emotional. Just the truth in that. I mean, it's literally burning in me right now that I have to cry it out. and the hope and the joy. I mean, this conversation's very life-giving.
Yeah.
And then my heart goes to people who have yet to remember, and but we all have those glimmers.
Yeah.
Our whole life have had
Yes.
the glimmer,
Yes.
and for whatever reason, the glimmer scares us,
Hmm.
you know. And so I guess I just want to like encourage anyone with the glimmer. They're seeing that glimmer. It's okay, you can trust it. That's the love that Mo's talking about. That's the love that Jason's talking about. I don't know, I just want to encourage our listeners here in that.
I
I just wanted to say, sorry, Jason.
No, go ahead.
Brooke, thank you for the vulnerability and courage to say that, to express that, because I think that authenticity is what happens when we dive into what's real.
Mm,
I have long abandoned the need to argue theology.
Come on.
I'm very excited about theology, but I don't argue it because of what you
mhm,
just said. People are not longing for really being right in their argument. That's what they think they want, to be
mhm,
right and to shoot your argument down. And I spent plenty of time on the other side reading Josh McDowell and Lee Strobel and all the guys and looking for a fight anytime I could get so I could shoot your argument to high hell. But what does that actually do? It doesn't do anything
mhm,
but the folks usually double down on their own beliefs when you do that.
Sure.
But
mhm,
what if we can see underneath with this divine perspective of what's underneath the language and the behavior and all the things that this world of form has separated us to believe? When we start the story in Genesis 3, bad things happen. The whole Old Testament is the result of people identifying with the Adamic, egoic self
mhm,
image of the soul. Old Testament shows us what happens when we believe that separation, and Jesus comes to dismiss that and replace all the portraits, all of those portraits that we had hanging in our mind and heart. Nope,
mhm,
throw those things in the trash. I'm going to give you a new one, and it is going to be built on love, the essence of what I'm going to be sharing with you, showing you, speaking, especially John 14 to 17. I love that section so much. He's talking mystical Christianity there, and they did not have any clue what he's talking about. And then they got the spirit, and I think things started to open up. Um, are you guys music fans? Do you know the cover on Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon?
mhm.
Um,
The cover? Yes. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
prism with the light, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So just think about it. This is an easy image. If the essence of all of it, the essence of the whole shebang, all of reality, we can boil down to the essence that we found in that singularity is love. The only two axiomatic statements that the scriptures give about God is light and God is love. All the others are adjectives, but the two axiomatic statements, light and love. I think about the light of God's love hitting the prism of our human experience, and the outraying of that light hitting that prism of our human experience are the fruits of the Spirit, are the gifts
Mm.
of the Spirit. And each color represents those character traits, those fruits, those gifts. So, what a just beautiful way of saying you don't have to work up any of this. It
Mhm.
is just allowing that light and love to infuse its way in you, be called up out of you, and then what gets displayed in a life that immerses in that, good things start to happen,
So
right?
good.
See,
So, yeah,
it's
I thank you for your vulnerability. That was meaningful to me as well.
Mm.
me as well. I love these conversations, and I love while you were talking. My kids and I, we were listening to Regina Spektor, who's another musician that we love, and she has a song called Loveology. But the
Loveology.
line at Loveology. It's great. You should listen to it. But this is the line. Every time I hear it, I'm singing it to my Heavenly Father. And it's, oh, what an incurable humanist you are. What an incurable humanist you are. And it goes on
How
to
about
talk
that?
about loveology. I'm sorryology, forgive meology. It's a beautiful song.
Mm.
But the starting point of this then is what you were talking about, Brooke. When there was a radical shifting, and for me, it was the culmination of 36 years, 35, 36 years into a moment that I have been unpacking for the last 16 years and will for eternity. But
Yes, sir.
the first thing he did was, yes, he was all about he was all about addressing my thoughts about him. He was all about taking me back to Genesis, the beginning. He was taking me back to Genesis 1 and 2. Yes, he was doing that for sure. Hey, you don't get a say in who I am. Jesus defined
Hmm.
that. But the very next thing he was doing was he was revealing how incurable a humanist he was. He was speaking to who I was and that I didn't get a say in who I was. And thus I didn't get a say in who Mo was or in who Brooke
Hmm.
was or in who my wife was or my kids or my neighbors, that I was being invited into that John 14 and that union invitation to be part of the dance, but then to be able to perceive those around me in the same light. And this is the gospel we're talking about. This is that
Hmm.
the practical outworking of what I'm hearing. You're
It's
using
actually
words.
good news. It's actual
This is
good
the
news.
actual good news,
Not
and the
bad news for
shift.
most and good news for just a
Right.
few.
And
Right.
as you said, it's the shift from the first thing he deals with was that all of us being in Adam, that mindset, and he does that with this profoundly incurable passion for our humanity that he wants us to participate in, and I get emotional thinking about it. But that's the practical outworking. You've used words I've never heard of in this conversation, Mo. I'm going to have to go look them up.
My good friend Rob Reno, who is in the tacos group,
Yes, Rob and I've had
uses
some
those
good
all the time.
conversations.
I love it. I love it so much. And I also value my favorite authors, Dr. Seuss, and
Yep.
anything that you can use complicated words to say often hides the reality. If you can say it that a 7-year-old can get it, then you probably are doing okay. So I
Hmm.
apologize
No, 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 no.
if the
I
language
every
was
that speaks to
unfamiliar.
my limitation, not to.
That's great.
But for real, speak to a little bit. Just we're wrapping up here,
Yeah,
just time
yeah.
wise, but reflections from the other side. That was chapter 9. I'm not the man I used to be, and thank God I never will be again. This is the liberty that
Mm-hmm.
I think people will feel in this conversation. Once you've settled on the cornerstone, this Christological hermeneutic, if you will, once you've discovered a union and that there is no shadow of turning, then there is this liberty to engage in conversations that include the sciences in ways that, to be quite honest, for a long time I wasn't allowed to engage in,
Yeah, me
or
too.
or practical ways. As we said, your conversation with Tara Boothby and getting into some of our early childhood formative years, and
Yeah.
even conversations on how other religions might be endeavoring to find Jesus.
Hmm.
Suddenly, the speak to that. I'm not the man I used to be, and thank God I never will be again.
I wonder if the way I might describe that now is I'm not the man that I believed myself to be,
Mm.
and I'll never be limited by those perceptions again
Come on.
It's good.
because
Hmm.
I've discovered and have been given the gift of awareness of the truth of my being. And so Jason, this is such a profound and important point, I think. This language of the good news, this light that came into the world and lit up every man, is not limited in time and space to one group, one religion,
Hmm.
one tradition, one discipline. So it has to be comfortable when you engage in biology or physiology or astronomy, right? It has to overlay on that in such a way that it is yet another pointer to the ultimate reality that underlies all things. So
Come
I
on.
would say that is very true in my experience of my good friends that I have in the um, Muslim community, the Hindu, Buddhist
Hmm.
communities. I was in an interfaith group when I worked for Ford. We prayed together, we heard stories. Guess where all of the pointers were toward? Different language, different,
Hmm.
and again, you can be fundamentalist as a Buddhist just as you can be fundamentalist as
Sure.
a Christian.
Yeah.
My
Hmm.
take now is the reason I can be open is I know who's holding my kite string. When
Come
I
on.
was a kid, I used to love holding, I love flying kites and the stunt kites, and
Hmm.
I'd hold it and I'd sometimes string a bunch of rolls together. You could barely see it way out there in the night sky. And one day I was flying it and I lost it and I ran after it and it was a stunt kite. So it started dipping and diving, but I didn't get it in time. And so way out on the other side of the field, it crashed and broke into a thousand pieces, right? So
Hmm.
irrecoverable. But that image has stayed with me as I've begun to explore cautiously at first, but now I'm excited.
Hmm.
If there is no subatomic particle throughout the cosmos that doesn't contain the fullness of the eternal Godhead, that dance is taking place in everything, in
Come
everyone,
on.
in every particle. Why would I fear when I'm confident in who's holding my kite string?
Come
Hmm.
on.
If God is
Come on.
holding it and God is actually functioning as the conscious awareness of my spirit joined with God's spirit means that I have that same awareness.
Mm.
That sort of puts the lie to any fear or shame that I would feel in entering into these spaces. Does that
Hmm.
does that like dismiss discernment? No, it's just a confidence that this good
Yes.
news has no limitations. There
Come
is
on.
no
Hmm.
one outside of love's reach.
Come
Zero.
on.
There
So
is
good.
Yeah.
nobody
Yep.
outside of that reality.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think when we see underneath and we stop separating out people by all the things that we like to divide on
Hmm.
religions and cultures and socioeconomic status and behavior, especially behavior. If we can see, like Jesus did, under the behavior to the truest, deepest part of their humanity, we'll find divinity. We'll find Jesus was holding up a mirror the whole time
Come on.
and saying, all the things you see me doing, guess what? Don't put me on a pedestal. Be your authentic self.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Be fully who I've created you to be, and then now go do your thing. Whatever you
Come on.
decide to do, there's no pressure in what you decide to do with your life, but just always have that awareness of divine awareness that
Hmm.
underrides and is transcends everything in your life.
Yeah.
I don't have to identify with my ego. I can identify with that instead,
Yes.
Hmm.
and that's just a more joyful way
Hmm.
to live. And yeah, I think you've seen it, Jason, and
Yeah.
what you've written. It's very obvious. And Brooke, I think in the few conversations I've heard that you participated in, I think you've seen and experienced that as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I
It's
think
good.
that's the awakening that's taking place. And you just described the good news. That, to me,
Well,
th-
it's
this
I used
idea
to
that there's
I used to think so hard about how to slide in the gospel and get someone to cross the line. Maybe if they didn't even know that they said the prayer, I get to celebrate because I got someone to cross. When you take that agenda off the table and you are just present
come on.
first with yourself, I
Hmm.
think we
Yeah.
still. we still don't get this. The idea of love your neighbor as yourself, the as yourself
Mm-hmm.
gets lost. When we
Mm-hmm.
have that self relationship with ourselves and it's healthy, it comes
Yeah.
from that space.
Yeah.
Then we can show up and just be present with people, and
Well,
that's what we all need. We need
and
to
this is
experience God's love.
that's the liberty I'm talking about that you're describing it. I'm living now fully just how can I be fully Jason present in this moment? I'm not here to get you to come over to my side or to
Hmm.
agree with my thoughts. I,
Mm-hmm.
I, I might think my thoughts are correct, but that's
Yeah,
irrelevant. That I'm here to be a walking revelation of the kindness of God revealed through Jason, of the
Mm-hmm.
good love revealed in through Jason being fully present as Jason. There's a liberty there, and then like you said, I don't have to. All things become sacred, and
yeah.
I'm not having to parse through what I'm doing today is of significance in this hour. What I do in the next hour doesn't have any significance. All of those secular divides get, I found myself,
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, we're working on some films, and I'm going to bed with a character that my brother and I created. This isn't a real person, and I am emotionally attached to this person. I am processing, and I go to bed
Yeah.
thinking about how they're motivated and waking up how and I remember a few weeks ago thinking, is this a good use of my time? And I heard my Heavenly Father laughing, like, there isn't sacred secular, Jason. And lean into
Mm-hmm.
the things that I
That's
have in
good.
front of you today and live fully present in the moment. And that's the liberty that didn't exist, even to chase down some of the ways that I've been designed, these creative ways that I've been designed. I'm 51 and I'm only now having the liberty to chase some of these things and to pursue some of these things that weren't valued high enough back in the
Mm-hmm.
days of my religious endeavors to try and earn his affection. If that makes sense.
I
So the
think,
liberty you're talking about.
yeah, I think both you and Brooke mentioned certainty at the beginning. And if I circle back, the world of
Yeah.
certainty requires separation
Mm-hmm.
for it to gain momentum. So the religious machine that is built on separation requires certainty, sin and certainty for that
Yeah.
machine to keep going. And
Yeah.
when
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
realize, like when I dove into quantum physics, that one day we're all going to discover that we have all been so gloriously wrong about certain things that we were so sure about, so
Yeah.
sure. But if we can just let that go, our need to be right, and realize our best articulations are just going to fall into dust
Come
and
on.
ashes, and we're going
Yeah.
to
Mm-hmm.
repent for even the most articulate things and well crafted podcasts that we come up with. And it's why is it not going to matter? Because love and peace and joy and justice, all of those things are going to be so much greater than we can possibly ever imagine
Come on.
in this life. And we're just going to probably sit in silence for a long time, all of us, jaws all drop to the ground. And how marvelous the whole story has unfolded, and
Yeah.
we've
Times
been
two.
included into it.
It's
Times
good.
two. That's good. That's good. Oh my goodness, we could keep going because there's plenty of thoughts whirling in
Mm-hmm.
my heart around the time and the invitation to live eternity now. Like
Yeah,
I have a feeling you've spent some time processing the timelessness of the
power of the
measureless
moment.
nature.
Yes, we should
Yeah,
talk again. Let's do it again sometime. I would love
let's do
that.
it
You
again.
guys are great.
Well, absolutely, and it'd be fun to get Jeff on here too. I think I didn't realize.
Yeah,
I now that you say it, I think Jeff. I'll tell you, Mo. I had over the year, and I said this before we hit record. I 70%, 75% of the folks that typically come on the podcast because I'm relational, I know them or of them, and the other 25% are because I'm relational and a friend of mine
yeah,
says you got to get this person. and your name kept coming up, and when I don't know a person, it takes almost a handful of times to hear the name. Just it resonates, but your name came up several times, and then when I reached out, or actually Brooke, Brooke,
Yeah.
thank you, reached out, but I was like, hey, we've got to get Mo on. This is. And this has been life giving, man. Getting to know you a
Hmm.
little beforehand, all the mutual connections, but then also this conversation. But we have to talk tacos because
Hmm.
it's in the title.
I
And
appreciate both of you reaching out and whoever it was that suggested it. It's been an honor. It really
Bob
is. Thank you.
Engel, Bob
Thank
is
you.
part of your group. He was the
Yeah.
most recent, but I think Jeff has mentioned your name, and there's
Okay.
been others.
Hmm.
But yeah, Bob Engel, shout out to Bob.
Yeah.
Thankful for
Thank you.
him, and again back to Dale
Yeah, Dale's
and the group.
fantastic. I love that guy.
Yeah,
Hmm.
everybody that's there, Rob, all those guys
Yeah.
that are
Rob too.
Wendy. There's so many folks that are part of that
Yes.
group as
Yes.
well. But
Thank you again.
um, tacos, brother. Where are you located? You said
I'm
you're
in
up in
Michigan, near
Michigan.
Detroit, about a half hour, 45 minutes from Detroit.
All right, I was born in Sarnia, and we used to come over to Port
Oh, right.
Huron.
Yeah, right across the
Uh,
bridge.
yeah, and we come over for gas and tacos way back in the day for Mexican.
That's a
My
good
mom was
combination
from
right there. Did you
yeah,
get the
my
tacos at the gas station when you
yeah,
pulled
yeah,
up? Was it
and
one of those
not always in the
places?
same order. Or sometimes it was the opposite. Not always in
Sometimes
that order.
those no-name gas station places have the best stuff.
That's
They have
true.
good
True,
pizza at some of those
100%.
places. Yeah,
My mom was a California girl, and so she taught us all about Mexican food growing up. And so,
nice.
but I know there's some good places to grab them there. But if you got a taco story, man, we're all ears.
I, there's not really a taco that I haven't liked. Kind of like pizza for me. There's very few pizzas that I would ever argue with if you put it in front of me.
Okay.
Is
Is there a
So
hot? Go ahead.
go
Go ahead.
ahead. I was just gonna say, it sounds like pizza's your jam.
well, I grew up in Chicago,
Yeah.
so
Gino's.
So,
yeah,
so
the
as
Chicago style. I like all kinds of pizzas, but I think it's the nostalgia of the, you know, inch and a
the
half, 2 inch thick pizza pie that you get downtown Chicago. Man, there's nothing that can
Hmm.
compare to that.
is it-
That's heaven right there. I think they're
so
gonna probably serve Chicago style deep dish with a side of tacos and maybe some frozen Mountain Dew to wash it down. That would be
Frozen
like,
Mountain Dew, huh? Okay.
yeah, slushy.
wow,
Yeah, I know.
wow.
I
I
like
didn't
my
expect
caffeine.
that.
I don't like coffee. I have to get my caffeine cold.
So now is it Illuminati?
Lumonatis. Lumonatis.
Illuminati. Now, for the longest time, the only way I could remember that was Illuminati,
There you
and
go.
but Lumina, I've had that. That was legit. So I
Yeah,
get it. I
yeah,
get it.
yeah. That's a bit
So
much
that
for
was
most people. It's just one slice and you're out for the day, basically.
100%.
Huh.
Put you on the
100%.
couch.
They came. There was like six of us, and they had a pie about maybe 8 inches in diameter. And I thought, there's no way that's enough. And I had one piece, and we were all
Yeah,
full, and
yeah,
it was
toasted.
legit. So
Yeah,
that's your taco. That's fine. That's
that's my
fine. You can
taco.
do that.
I Jason, I can won't be able to remember the place. A pizza taco, a
Okay.
pizza taco. So
Okay.
yeah,
I
taco
yeah.
with pizza toppings on it.
I mean,
I mean,
There,
that's how I
you
am
can
in
it's
New
make
got to
York.
anything into
work.
a taco.
We are an inclusive community here. That's
That's
got to
right.
work.
That's right.
You,
Listen, my favorite pizza is that New York slice. It's dripping
yeah,
down your elbow. It's the
yeah, the
grease,
fold it
and
over,
you
right?
and that's a
That's
pizza taco. You fold
that's a
the way
taco.
you eat it. The way you eat it is you fold
There
it
it
over
is. There it
and you eat it
is.
like a taco.
So
You've brought
funny.
us back to ground our tacos. That's
That's
perfect.
right.
I appreciate
It's
that.
funny.
It's always a fun conversation, and
Yeah,
I love the relational way that always works out. But
love it.
tell me this: where are you? How many? I'm only aware of this book. Have you written anything else?
I wrote one a couple years ago with a few friends. You may not know the names. Pastor Nick Padavani out in New Jersey published my first book, and I wrote it with him and his best friend Dylan, who lives out in California. It's called The Snow Globe. So that is
Okay.
those are the only two, and I've participated as a contributor to a few other than that. But I would say the Into the Abyss really is, if I wanted to share something, that's my faith journey.
Yeah.
I think that would probably end up being the most encouraging, especially for people who are just dipping their toe in the
Yeah.
water and are maybe
Yeah.
open to other language
Mm-hmm.
as a pointer to this
It's good.
one reality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that it might be helpful for those folks.
And it really is it's well written in a line upon line
Mm-hmm.
invitation through what we've talked about, Into the Abyss, The Wall. I think I've got the titles here. In the Shadow of Certainty, you really you talk about our God lens, and then you end in you round out in union, and then a God that's times two or times 2 trillion,
Two and
and
a half
all means
trillion, yeah.
all, which is
Mm-hmm.
where
I think I might have
we
ended with a Dr. Seuss
I love
inspired
Dr. Seuss.
poem
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the book. Um, this is free for you. If you ever are on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you don't have to phone a friend. Dr. Seuss wrote in anapestic tetrameter. That was the rhyme, the meter that he wrote in. And so I love writing poetry in that anapestic
Okay.
tetrameter as an
Okay,
as a
anatestic
tribute to him.
pentameter. What is that? Any idea?
it's
Ba-bap, ba-bap, ba-bap.
it's kind of, said Conrad Cornelius O'Donnell Odell, my little young friend who is learning to spell. The A is for ape and the B is for bear, C is for cat and the H is for hair. That's the rhythm.
Okay.
There you go.
It's good.
I can
'Twas the
feel it.
night before Christmas, same rhyme, same meter.
And all
Mm.
through the house. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you're
Uh-huh.
welcome for that. You just
Thank
now
you.
gained
For
one more
free.
useless piece of trivia for your
For
rest of your
free.
week.
Where can folks find you? Where can they find the book?
Into the Abyss is anywhere that books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I can include a link that if you drop the podcast, you can link
I'll do that
directly.
as well.
And then
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Uh, that's about it. I do coach folks from a holistic, Christological lens, those that are going through deconstruction and those that are really looking to move from a false self identity to their real life identity. I've been just, that practice is just about a year old, and I'm
Mm.
loving it. I get to talk about
Where
what I love in a context that gives people a different framework for the life that they're living.
and where would that is there a website?
I can include that also.
Well, if you want to say it, unless you don't want to say it,
I,
I'll add it.
okay, all I have at this point, it's still word of mouth. The website that I have, I
Okay. All right.
canned.
I'll,
So right now it's just I got a paragraph description that
all right.
gives
I
that
will say
background. I
this.
appreciate you asking. Thank you.
Yeah. I think there's going to be folks that would be interested in that, and
Thank you.
I'm grateful for those who have come out the other side, convinced of His goodness, and the we have more and more voices, mature voices in love that are helping folks. The community, the Facebook community, has been a real sweet spot,
Mm-hmm.
guys. I'd recommend joining us there. Also, we've referenced it a few times. Dale Howie has a Zoom group. It's Coffee Cafe, Tacos Coffee Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's kind of a spin-off for the tacos community and anyone else who wants to participate. And they meet on Thursdays and Sundays. You might know the times by your heart, Mo.
Yeah. Thursdays is 10 o'clock Eastern
Mm-hmm.
time, and Sundays is 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern
Eastern. That's
time.
right.
And yeah, again, this is not, Dale did not pay me to say this, but he is just a wonderfully big-hearted individual that does a bang-up job facilitating those. He's
Yeah.
gentle, he's
Mm-hmm.
wise, he's written eloquently on some of these things, and I have come to respect him as a brother and friend. So I would just encourage those who are looking for a community space
Mm-hmm.
around some of these topics and ideas. Those are great places to connect. It's you can stay off in the background and just listen, or you're welcome to contribute. They're fantastic forums, and
Yeah. Yeah.
both you
It's good.
guys, I appreciate you making those available
Yeah.
as another way to connect.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm grateful for Dale as well. He's been a friend and a source of encouragement. And if you're wanting to connect, we'll have links, but also you can join our Facebook group, and it's always pinned at the top. There's a Zoom link there. But man, this is life-giving conversation. Mo, we'll do it again. I'm
Awesome.
glad we finally got you on here and have had that opportunity to do face-to-face. But appreciate you, man.
Thank you for your
so great.
openness. Thank you for your openness to include maybe language that might be a little unfamiliar to you. I know I can get kind of go overboard with stuff because I've just been diving in deep. But thank you for your openness to include it.
I love it. This is the stuff, man. I love it. I'm grateful. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on the ride with us. Appreciate it.
Take care.
See ya.
Take care.